No, you said I heard Torah Samachalaf. Okay, זה בחינס, כי חוכמסכם ובינסכם לעיני העמים, לעיני העם דייקה. דהיינו, שרק לעיני העמים, ישור שמודיע להם. ותקף אחר כך אין יודעים כלל, רק יודעים שהסוד אצלנו. כי אין עוד המודיע להם, זה חוכמה בעצם שהוא סוד העיבור, רק שיש בזה שכל שיכולים להרש את החוכמה לעיניהם לבד, למען ידעו שזה חוכמה היא אצלנו. אבל עצם סוד החוכמה נשאר אלינו, זה בכין סוד העיבור, שאין נמצא רק גדולי הדור, שיש להם נשומות גדולות. Okay, so the Rebbe is talking here about koyach that a person could have to see, understand what the future is all about. Taluchas HaGalgalim is that it goes and everything puts together, whether the mazolis go this way or that way, whichever way it may be, the koyach HaMazolis or what happens in this world. Al pi derech hateva, al pi derech hateva, and therefore the koyach of the mazolis, the koyach of the soida iba, if you know it, you know how it's going to work. So then you know automatically what the future is going to happen, because you know what the galgalim are going to tell you what to do, right? Galgalim. That's a certain koyach. It's like a Bechinas Ruach HaKodesh, which the Rebbe is saying here, it has to do with the Shomas Gedolos, right? Because only the Sanhedrin, or not even just the Sanhedrin, it was only certain people of the Sanhedrin that ever did Soida Iba. They used to get 3 or 5 or 7. The Gemara in Sanhedrin talks about it. Al Kaponim, the Soida Iba, was not given over to everybody. The Gemara in Brachos tells about Hananya ben Ochir and Yeshua. He was a Godol, he was Ma'ab B'Shona M'chutz La'aretz. And he said, why they sent him, why are you doing it? He says, Rebbe Kiva also was so great in Neshama, he was able to Ma'ab B'Shona M'chutz La'aretz. So they said to Hananya ben Rebbe Yeshua, where do you come to do it? He said, I didn't leave anyone like me in Eretz Yisrael, so I could do it. So they sent him a couple to Talmidei Chacham. The point is that there are certain things that only Gedolei Neshamos can poil. Sure, that's the Soida Iba. The Iba to know what the future is. The Meiser, the Rebbe brings in Torah Lamed Hey in the second Chelik. He says, Kedem Yodati Be'edu Secha. I know beforehand what's going to happen from your Torah. I know the Koyach HaTorah, which Rav Nosson brings, excuse me, about the Soida Iba, right, that you have to be Mashra, the Chama, or Levono. Rav Nosson brings that Koyach is what is Mashra, what brings everything together. Chama, Levono, there's a lot of the Madregas, the Tzadik, the Talmud. There's a lot of inyonim in the koyach of Chama Ulavona, of the Mazolis, right? All this koyach comes together from the Neshomas Gedolos. The Rebbe starts off the Torah that you have to have emunas chachamim. You have to have emunas chachamim to the point that you understand what's right, what's wrong. And they go from Yemin Usmoil, whatever the case might be, that's also Bechinas Levona. The koyach of being able to see the future, to know what's going to happen, comes about through these neshamas kedolos to the tzaddikim, which is what the emunas chachamim is all about. Okay? Any questions on that so far? Because the Rebbe is going to go into another shtickle about Gedolei Hador. Any questions on that? Okay.
Yeah. I thought the Rebbe didn't condone going into mazalis and stuff like that.
No, the Rebbe doesn't condone it to go into mazalas, right? The Rebbe is talking about knowing what the future will bring, which means what you're supposed to be doing, right?
Why
The future is really what you're supposed to be doing. Rabbi Chaim used to say in the name of the Chassam Sofer, he said, Ezu Chacham Haroya es Noilad, right? Noilad means whatever's going to happen in the future, right? Yeah, so why does the Chassam Sofer, why do you use the word Noilad? Noilad Etzloi Ben, he had a child, right? Noilad is past, right? He says from the past, you can know the future. When you learn Torah, the Rebbe says you have to learn that on Hogas Yeshoris, how to serve Hashem. Yeah? We agree on that? Okay. So that means whatever I did till now, I'm learning, I'm understanding from the Torah HaKdosha what happened to me in the past and what's going to happen to me in the future. It's not really a question of being shleimach on the mazolas. The Rebbe didn't hold from that because that's teva. The Rebbe held from hashgacha. You have to believe everything happens in the world is complete hashgacha. Ha-teva is the gematria elikim. The Rebbe brings the Torah in Reish Nun, other Torahs. Right? So the koyach ha-teva is a koyach that you know what's happening with your teva, with your nature, right? And you're able to discern from what's happening how I'm going to act in the future. You got a nisoyan, if you Yetzer Hara, yeah? You get a nisoyan, the Yetzer Hara comes to you and tells you do this or do that or whatnot. From the way you did in the past, the noilad, that's the way you're going to know about how you're going to be able to overcome the Yetzer Hara in the future, right? And that's why you need the Gedolei Neshamos, as the Rebbe says now. Okay? So the Rebbe says, talks about Le'enei Ha'amim, that we do something, and Le'enei Ha'amim, the Goyim see, right? And they understand that we have a different koyach, we have a different power, and afal pikein, right? They don't understand it, right? They're trying now, and I'm not saying this as a Zionist, I'm saying this as a Yid who has emunah in Hashem, right? That they see that whatever happens with Eretz Yisrael is the malamei ateva, because they're trying to kill us, every one of them, right? And from deswegen, we're surviving. Why are we surviving? Why? How? Right? The Nevi'im, all the Nevi'im, you see, they talk about coming, before Mashiach's coming, Klal Yisrael will return to Eretz Yisrael, and they will rebuild the land. The Nevi'im said this, right? And we see it happening. Nowadays, you go into Yerushalayim, you see cranes, building buildings, tall buildings, right? The Gemara, Bava Basra, says, I see the Yerushalayim, they're going to have buildings 30 stories high. Right? The Gemara says. But those days, time of Chazal, there were no cranes. They didn't have this kind of building material and whatnot. And they said, Yerushalayim will have buildings 30 stories high. Today I see it, right? And I recognize in davening every morning, Boinei Yerushalayim Hashem, right? Hallelujah, Kitov Hashem. Every day you can see how Hashem is building Eretz Yisrael. right? You can see that. Le'enei ha'amim, they see, they try, and they can't conquer. Why not? Because there's a soid ha'ibah, there's a soid where the Eibishter is bringing about the koyach ha'ashkocha. The soid ha'ibah is really a koyach ha'ashkocha. All right, so the goyim see it, they try, and Baruch Hashem, it hasn't worked. Okay? Aval etzem soid ha'ibah nishay etzleinu. וזה בחינת סוד העיבור שאין נמצא רק גדולי הדור, שיש להם נשומס גדולוס. Why is that? כי תהלוכס הגלגלם הוא על ידי שכליים. It works through seichel. The Rambam brings it in the beginning, how the world was created, right? And you have the different sichliim, which are the different mazolos, they have a different seichel. The Gemara has a few different Gemara in Brachos, Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, in a few places. It talks about the different mazolos, the seder, which one is going up, which one is going down. But there's a gvaldige chokhmah in how the world is running because of the way the mazolos are going, right? So it's really a gvaldige koyach of seichel. What should he seichel? Shehem malochim. Because the Rambam there says there's oilam ha-malochim, oilam ha-gagalim, and oilam hazeh. The whole galgal v'galgal yesh, the Rebbe brings that in Torah Tes. Anyway, ki taluches ha-gagalim hu ayidei sichliyim shehem ha-malochim, the whole galgal v'galgal yesh lo seichel miyuchad, tahainu maloch shemisnaig al yodoi, ayidei zehu v'shtanas hiduch ha-gagalim. What is that? Shizeh ha-galgal mahalach b'chodesh, that's the Levona, or v'zeh keseder. V'zeh ha-galgal mahalach b'shona or yoseh, that's the sun. V'yesh galgal shetzorech zman rav kama alofim shonam ad shemisavev. Those are the outer planets. Jupiter, the Moshel, is 12 years. Saturn is 30 years. These are midrashim. They all tell you how long these gagalim go. והכל לפי השתנס השכליים, שהם משתנים לפי ריחוקם מהאלה. As far as they are from Hashem, that's the koyach that causes them to go around. Uchomoikein misnagim hagalgalim. And that's how the galgalim work. According to the malachim, according to the koyach that the Eibush to put into malachim, which means that it's all hashgocha. There's a certain seichel in that. V'cholelo ha-sechliim kulam mekalim me'amanig ha-koilel. Shehu seichel ha-koilel, which the Rebbe brings later on in Sif Yud, shehi ha-shoma shekulam misnagim v'yodo v'chinas v'nishmas shakai tvine. That the seichel comes about in the neshama. The neshama is the seichel. Right, Chazal say you have nefesh, ruach, and neshama. The nefesh is in the liver. The pashtus, all the taivus, the ritzoinus of a person. The ruach is in the lave. And the neshama, the seichel, is in the neshama. The neshama is in the seichel, in the mind. That's nishmas shakai tvine. That the tvuna, the bina, the understanding comes about in the neshama. Shan shama shefeya seichel behem. The neshama what puts the seichel into the person. The alkein and neshama nikras shemayim. Therefore, the neshama is called shemayim. Shu kloli is hagalgalim. K'moshe kosev hikir ala shemayim me'ol zu an shama. Gemara over there talks about how could a person be mischayev after 120 years. A person, right, he did a virus, and he comes to heaven, he says, well, I can't do anything, right? I'm in the neshama now. And before I was a guf, right? The guf is the what that's in, not the neshama, right? So the Eibusha takes the neshama, puts it together with the guf, right? Yikra ala neshama me'al, bi'ala oretz mitochas. It takes the neshama, and that what puts it in the guf, so that the person is no longer just a neshama, he's a guf too. That's the seichel. So the neshama is really called Shemayim. That's how the Gemara learns it. Ki anshama hu manig hakoilo shel kol hagagalim kanal. Now, we have to understand this more. The Galgalim, the Rebbe brings the Moshe Torah Lamed Aleph. The Rebbe says the Galgalim run through the koyach tzedakah. Person gives over tzedakah manheges kol hagagalim. That's what the Rebbe says in the lesson. The pshat is that the neshama is the koyach behind everything that a person has. Now the Ari brings that when a person is born, he doesn't start with a neshama. He starts with a nefesh. And then as he progresses in avodas Hashem, he's given a ruach. And later on, he's given a neshama. So the neshama comes later. The neshama is the seichel. A kid, until the bar mitzvah, is not considered someone who has seichel. He may be a smart kid, but he's not considered till the bar mitzvah. Right? It's when the neshama, which comes in at the bar mitzvah, that's when the person gets the neshama. That's what the area brings. Al Kaponim over here, we're talking about the neshama, all the galgalim, all that is really the koyach of a person to be able to choose what's right and what's wrong, to know what the future is going to bring, to know how to conduct yourself, how to fear zich. And that's what the Rebbe starts off the lesson with. That you have to have emunas chachamim, you have to be moitzi mishpatei emes, right? How? What? That's your neshama. You have to be able to guide the neshama that you learn Torah, and through the koyach HaTorah, you're zoicha to bring into the person a koyach to know what to do right, shaloi lelech, loi limin v'loi l'smoil, to do it exactly like it's supposed to. The way the teva works, that's the way our neshamas are supposed to work too. To work in a seichel, that everything works out according to the richuk me'ela, according to the person's closest to Hashem. That's how a person should be able to run the galgalim, to run the seichel that he has. And then, if you have any moisrus, you knock it off. It doesn't become, you can't understand it. So you have to be talking about the great, very great tzaddikim, which is what the Rebbe says now. The Alkein HaNeshama Nikra Galgalta. Galgalta is really the skull which encompasses the moyach where the neshama is. But the neshama itself is called the Galgalta. Al Shem Galgale Harakia Shemisnaga Mayoda. Now, the Metzias is a person, according to how he acts, that's how the Teva, the Galgalim will work. Im b'chukoisai telechu, ves mishpotai tishmeru, like the Rebbe says, you have to moitzi mishpotim yishorim, right? So what happens is that when the Tzadik yishmeichem be'itom, the Gashmiyas all works properly, right? You get the shefa you're supposed to get, your parnasa comes easy, Nesati Sholem Ba'oretz, Shchavta V'emachrid, everything works according to the shefa. When? How? In Bechukois Aite Lechu. If the person is zoicha to follow through the Torah HaKadosha the way he's supposed to. When he does that, he causes all the Galgalim, all the Derech HaTeva to work. Reb Nosson, yes, I think it's in Herchos Ola, but he says, a lot of the Meforshim question. He says, how is it that if B'chukoisai Telechu v'Nesatik Yishmeichem Be'itom, I says, you're going to follow the Torah, so I'm going to make sure your Gashmiyas is okay, right? He says, how does that happen? What's the tzishel? What's the connection between the Koyach HaTorah and the Gashmiyas? And Reb Nosson explains there that that's the way it's supposed to be. the Gashmius will work according to the Ruchnius. Right? So if you're Zoicha to be Moitzi Mishpatei Emes, do that, then you can understand how the Galgalim, how the Teva will work in your favor. You'll be able to have Parnosa Berevach, you'll be able to have, Machaltam Yoshem Noshon, Yoshem Nechodosh Tuitziu. You'll have all of that. You'll be able to be Mischadesh every day, you'll be able to renew yourself. Everything will become new, great, and positive. Why? Because in B'chukoisai Telechu, Shetiyu Amelim B'Torah. And that's what the Rebbe is coming to now. V'alkein haneshomas hagadolos b'kiyim b'soid ha'ibah. Only the neshomas gadolos. Ki mi yodea hanagosom k'moy hamanig. V'elu haneshomas hagadolos tzrichen sheyeh lehem guf. Yikra l'shamayim me'ol zu haneshoma and the guf. B'vchinas pri ha'oretz. That's the Gashmias. Right? Now what happens here? B'chinas avida de Eretz Yisrael. That the Pri Ha'oretz, that the children that come out from the Zivug, right, they should be Pri Ha'oretz, they should be Kodosh B'Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. Right? And that's very hard to do, as the Rebbe will now explain. Ki k'she'avu miskadesh b'Kedushas Eretz Yisrael, as I call a Pedis v'yatfu ha'godol shom, shemehem nizoin ha'odom, ומשם בו הטיפה הזריס, הכל הוא בבחינס ארץ ישראל. ומשם נרקם הגוף בבחינס, רוקמתי, פסחתי יויס אורץ, בבחינס ארץ ישראל. ויזי הגוף בבחינס פרי האורץ, ואזי רואי לקבל נשום גדולה, בבחינס יקר לשמיים ליאול, זה הנשום ולאורץ זה הגוף. The Rebbe says in Siv Beis, the Rebbe talks there that when you have Emunas Chachamim, you masmich a Rebbe Shehogun, and when you masmich a Rebbe Hogun, you mezoichet to Mekadesh, the ear, the Avir, to be Bechinas Eretz Yisrael. That's what the Rebbe says, B'ksav Yadenu, right? Why? Nosson explains in detail in a few halachos. He explains that the kulmus, the pen that you're writing with, right, moves in the ear, right? You're moving your hand back and forth. The ear is moving, right? When you're writing the Torah, which means that you're mechavin to moisi mishpatei la'or. When you're mechavin that, then you're making kedushas Eretz Yisrael, and that's what the Rebbe says there. That wherever a yid goes, he's mekadesh to mokim b'kedushas Eretz Yisrael. That even here in Chutz La'aretz, in Muncie, right, you can have Kedushas Eretz Yisrael.
So if someone has a particular room,
If what?
if someone would have a particular room where they write their Kedusha Torah in,
Yeah.
then that room has a level of Avir Eretz Yisrael?
You can have, yeah, because he's learning the Torah, he's writing the Kisvei Torah, he's moving the ear around him. The Rebbe says, you're Mekadesh, that ear, B'Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. All right, did you ask your father for a room? All right. It's important.
First, let's talk if I would be able to use it. Then we
What? First we'll talk.
First, we talk if I would be able to use it. Then we see about the room itself.
It's only using it's only when you're using
What?
it's only when you're using a compass.
I have a hearing loss. It's my fault. I'm not wearing hearing aids.
Is it only when you're using a compass or any movement that
No,
creates it?
Rav Nosson in Kut Aloch, it brings the Zoya. The Zoya says that it's a Zoya to Tikkun Chafalov. The Zoya says there like this. In Galusa Kadmoa, the first Golus of Mitzrayim, right? There was Kriyas Yamsuf, right? Then the Zoya says, right, Begalusa Basra, which is now, right? There's going to be a Kriyas Yamsuf of Chochmah, which the Rebbe spoke about in Sif Beis. The Rebbe there spoke about the Chochmah, the Smichas Chachomim, right? It comes there. So there's going to be Kriyas Yamsuf of Chochmah that's going to come down. That Kriyas Yamsuf is Bekul Musa. It brings from the three fingers that hold the pen. There's three fingers. When you write it with a pen, you'll see you need the thumb, and the two fingers hold the pen on the other side. Right? Those three fingers are what you write the Divrei Torah on. That's what's going to open up the Yama Chochmah, and you're going to be zoicha to the Chochmah that the Rebbe says uses in the smicha of a Rebbe who's worthy, of a Rav who's worthy, right? And that brings about Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. Because Chochmah Eretz Navir de Eretz Yisrael Machkim, the ear of Eretz Yisrael, so that a person, by being Oisek in Divrei Torah, makes the ear Kodosh B'Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. He brings about the Chochmah, and he brings about the Smicha, and he brings about a Rebbe that's Hogan, a Rebbe that could teach. Other than that, you have the other guys, the guys who are not worthy, and there's plenty of that, unfortunately, right? And that goes for everything, not just. I mean, the Rebbe is focusing here in the Torah on unworthy leaders. That's what he's focusing on. But the fact is, the lower we get in the level of Ruchnius, the more chance there are of people like Hitler, Stalin, or this new guy in New York, Mamzeri, what's his name? Not Madmani, Mamzeri. A dollar in the Zion. Gold in Hebrew is Zahav. In Aramaic, it's Dahav. So the Zion and the Dalet are interchangeable, right? So the guy, you call him Mamzeri. You can call, well, where does a guy like that come? Or AOC, right? Where does she was a bartender. Where did she come to Congress to make so much noise wherever she goes? Where? How? It's our avoiders that bring around these kind of people. Verstehst? That's what the Rebbe is saying. You need the Neshama Gedoyla, you need the Priya Oretz, you need Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. Right? You have to make Kedushas Eretz Yisrael wherever you go. And on the other hand, if we are weak in that, right, we're not learning Mishpatei Emes, we're not doing the thing right. And should I ask, are we doing it right? Is the system working? Ask yourself. Is the system of Yiddishkeit working today? Right? Baruch Hashem, they get up in the morning, wash Negovasa, right? You say the brachas, you go to shul, you go to mikveh. But is it working? Is Klal Yisrael coming close to Hashem? Or do you get a guy like Bernie Sanders, an anti-Semit, that's worse than some of the other guys? How does this work out? Right? Something is wrong in what we're doing. Right, or as said from the Chaim, if a Jew smokes in Paris on Shabbos, it's because we're not learning enough Torah in Radman. It's a famous story that way, right? The Kitzah, I mean, it's our koyach. What I've noticed, by the way, I'm nearly 80, and I remember the war of Suez in 1956. I remember it. I was a kid, but I remember it. And after every war that took place in Eretz Yisrael, I've seen more Bali Tshuva coming around. More Bali Tshuva come around after every war. In this war, right, in the beginning of the war, after October 7th, so they had a request for 700 pairs of tefillin, shortly after the war started. Right, the soldiers were asking for tefillin, which was a chiddush nifla, but it happened, right? And now, some of the people that came out from Chevy, from the hostages, some of them said that while over there they decided they're going to become Bali Tshuva. And it's, right, where does it come from? It comes from our avodah. When we choose to see Hanhogas Yeshoros from whatever it is we're learning, right? The Torah means something to me. That's the pshat. The pshat is the Torah means something to me. That this thing I learned, it's not abstract. right? I can learn Shoshan Oga Chesapara, right? I once had a shiur, a guy, he lived in Oklahoma. He became a Baal Tshuva. But it was an amazing story with the guy, Doc Rosen. Remember him?
Sure, yeah.
Right? So he had a whole meister, whatever. He came around, he became a Baal Tshuva, but he was a doctor, a kidney specialist. So he had a practice in, it was Oklahoma, Duncan, Oklahoma, right? But he was there, and he was divorced, so he was by himself. He had a ranch, and he invested in cattle. He invested in cattle. Yeah, right? So now, the guy says to me like this, he calls me up one day. He says, I got a question. A shiur of shatnez. A shatnez, kaloi behema. He said, there's a min cow that's called a Hereford. The Herefords are big cows with big heads, and they give a lot of milk, right? There's a different kind of cow that's called Angus, an Angus bull. You may have seen these terms, whatever the case is. He says, the min noyig sheba'olam, that when you want a Hereford cow to give birth, you made it with an Angus. Why? Because the Angus is a small head. So that the first calf that comes out of the cow has a small head. It doesn't break open the clay lather of. He said, is that kalayim? Right? Chazal say, kol minei shvarim echadei. So there's no kalayim. That's what I told him. But I checked with Rabbi Chaim Talma from Los Angeles. I spoke to him about it. I said, that's what I told him, but am I right? Or do I have to tell him something different? He says, no. He says, you're okay. You're right with that. But you have to understand, I had to think about it for a minute, because here in Los Angeles, we don't always see cows walking in the street. Are they a Hereford? Are they an Angus? Are they a this bull? There's a lot of different types of shvarim. The metzius is that there's so many different things that happen in the Welt, so many different things that go on, and that the person, this is a legitimate shiur. The guy didn't know, kaloi behema or not, whatever the case is. Point is that we have to realize that whatever we do, right? What does it mean to me? Does it? You have a cow in your backyard? No. Right? Well, what are you going to do? You have to learn from there. Right? So the Baal Shem quotes, the Rebbe brings it in Torah Reish Pei. There's the Inyan machlif parah b'chamor. Right? You can change the parah b'chamor. You can barter. Right? Instead of paying cash, you can exchange the animals. Right? When you learn it, it's one thing. The Baal Shem Kodesh says, the Rebbe brings the idea in that Torah, that when you mekayim it, it's a gewaldige inyan, a greater inyan than just learning it. The point is that when you come to anything that you learn, you have to figure out what it means. By us, maybe I could just say, shiur is a dover shebegdusha, kosher animal. A machlif parah b'chamor, a person takes his kedusha, right, and he turns it into chumrius, into gashmius, right? You machlif parah b'chamor. A person is changing, or he's machlif the treif stuff for the kosher stuff. So you can learn something. I may not be a goin, I may not know all the rishonim and the rachonim and the Kabbalah, but I do know that there's something in it. Whatever it is I'm learning, it's teaching me how to come close to Hashem. If I don't find that, then I'm missing out in the koyach HaTorah that I'm learning. So if I learn a couple of hours, Gemara, Rashi, Tosfos, I look at all the things that are happening, right? What did I learn that helps bring me closer to Hashem? I understand the Gemara. I understand the Tosis. But where's Hashem? Right? That's the question. You say in Birchas HaTorah in the morning, Kolonu yoidei shmecha, loimdei servisecha lishma, that the koyach HaTorah that we learn, we're learning yoidei shmecha, to know about Hashem. That's the tachlis of it. If you're not find Hashem from the Torah, then you're going to end up with moistus the moyach, and you're going to just do whatever you want. I had last night? This morning, last night it was, shiur. And it was a Litva Shekoilel, but they learn Likutei Moharan. They learn Torah, the Tayel B'Tarosai. It was in Jackson, New Jersey, near Lakewood. So, B'kitzur, I don't know how it got onto the subject, but it came out about Shidduchim. Shaila came up about Shidduchim, which is the Rebbe Shidduch is also a man and wife, not just a bocha who's not married, whatever. Right? Zivig, where the Pri Ha'aretz comes out, whatever. But anyway, I said to them that it's Lakewood, there are a lot of bochum there, right? And they all go for Shidduchim, and they're all looking for Shidduchim, and this is a top bocha. Did you ever hear that expression? He's a top bocha, or he's a top girl, she's a top girl, whatever. Top, they're the best, right? That's the way the shadchan always presents everything. So I said to them, there was a guy once, his name was Rabbi Akiva, and he was the Am Ha'aretz, right? Now you have to think of it in different terms. He had a wife, Rachel. Rachel was the daughter of Kalbas Savua, who today would be considered Elon Musk or one of those very, very wealthy guys. Kalbas Savua could hold out Yerushalayim 21 years with Wudu. Right? I mean, Meridik, the Gemara in the Gittin, right? The Gvaldikai, she was the daughter of the wealthiest person in the world. Right? She grew up in the lap of luxury, right? And she marries this guy, Rabbi Akiva, who's a shepherd, who's an Am Ha'aretz, right? Top bocha, but he became Rabbi Akiva, top bocha. He was the top guy. He's the only one compared in Chazal to Moshe Rabbeinu, right? Rabbi Akiva. But you have to look at it this way. Rabbi Akiva did not become Rabbi Akiva because he held his father-in-law hostage. You got to support me for 4 years, for 5 years. You got to take care. You got to buy me a house and a Honda. And, that's not what happened. Rabbi Akiva became Rabbi Akiva because they threw him out of the house. They threw him out. That's what happened. That's how he became Rabbi Akiva, right? So all the stuff that goes on with the shidduchim, with all, right? It's the midos of a person. Reb Chaim Vital brings in Shari Kedusha. He says, if a person were to have midos tovos, he would automatically fulfill the Torah. He would automatically be Mekayim. You need the midos tovos, anivas, right? You need savlonus, arichas apayim. You need to be nice, to go mechesed, right? If you have all the other stuff, kinna and sinna, right, and kas and gaiva and all that, if you have all of that, the Torah is hard. He says, how do we know? Because none of the midos are written as a mitzvah in the Torah. Nowhere in the Torah do you find you mechuyev to be an onav, you mechuyev to be no kas, you don't find that. So Chaim Vital writes it in Shari Kedusha. Al Kaponim, the Inyan is, the Rebbe says in the Neshama of a person, Nishmas Shakai Tavinam, you have to bring the Koyach HaNeshama, which is a Ruchnius Tikazach, which the Rebbe brings in Torah, Reish Samach Lamoshal, that it's a Chelik Elika Bimal. Every one of us, Everyone of Klal Yisrael has a chelik elika imal, a chelik of Hashem walking around in him. Question, do we feel it? Right? That's what the Rebbe is talking here about Yikra, Shemayim, Me'ol, Zah Shama, Velor, Zah Guf, Ki Aneshama, Lefi HaGuf. The way a person is zoicha to metar the guf, that's the way the person could be zoicha to a neshama. If you mezach, the Russian Rebbe starts off the Torah. You have to have emunas chachamim, you have to be moitzi mishpatei or, right? And the Rebbe says over there that if you don't, you're learning from moisris, right? Moisri moichin. You have something extra, additional in your mind that's not quite Torah, right? Soso yuminu smoil, not to the right, not to the left. You have to go dead center, mishpatei emes, right? You have to have that. And when can you have that? When you have koyach haTorah be'emes. If you're missing something in the learning, if I have a taiva, so I have moisri moichin. If I have moisri moichin, I can't get that way. I have to mevatel the midas rois. That's what the Rebbe is talking about here. That's the koyach. K'shaguf zach v'noki yochol lekabel neshama gedoyla v'chein lehefach. When the body is clean of the taivas, then the person has a ruchniistic body. The Zoya Parshas Shlach, I believe it is, asked the question, right? Batilbash Este Malchus, right? The Zoya asks, was there ever a person who had a guf of Gan Eden in this world? Did you ever have a ruchnius dika guf in this world? The Zoya answers, Batilbash Esther Malchus. Esther, Mordechai Yotze Ve'elus Malchus, it's Ruach HaKodesh. In other words, they had a guf that was completely Kodesh V'Torah, completely Kodesh V'Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu, right, Zoya says, Shalna Alecha Me'ar Raglecha, right? Zoya says, Shalna Alecha the gufa, right? That's the body. Why did he have to be poshet his guf? Because Bas Paroi touched him. That's what the Zoya says. Imagine that, right? Moshe Rabbeinu was Kodesh Mirechem, right? But the Kol Abayis, the Smali Oira, and he was Kodesh Mirechem, but when he came close to Hashem, Shalna Alecha, get rid of your body. Why? Because Bas Paroi touched him. That little Nagia made a blemish in his body. It wasn't pure. He had to get rid of that little thing. Imagine us, we eat when we're young, right? We sleep, we engage in taivas, we have our own indulgences, whatever, we do all these things, right? So the guf has to be kodosh in order to be able to mekabel a neshama kadosha. The more a person is zoicha to climb the ruchniistic ladder, he's doing it by being matar the guf. He's matar the guf from the taivas, the midas rois, then he's zoicha to mekabel the neshama. V'al kein, yesh medinois shesichlam ava mugushim, v'chein yesh medinois shesichlam tzach v'tzolol. V'akoi lefi ha-medina. There are places where they have, take a look at America today, right? You have all these brilliant kids who are going to university, right? There's no bigger gashmius than these kids. Sichlam ava mugushim. Right? You can't speak to them, you can't talk to them something seichelic. You can't. They're all like crazy animals. Take a look what happened with all the demonstrations, how to do whatever, right? There are places that they have a little bit more seichel. I don't know those other countries. I have no idea. To me, they're all in the first category. Anyway, v'akol lefi ha-medina, lefi ha-mozoin ha-yotzi mimena. Rebbe says in Sefer Amidos that according to the muzzle of a person, that's his seichel. According to the food that he eats. If he eats like an animal, right, his food is animalistic food. If the person eats like a mensch, right, there's Rav Sternhartz was a edicle of the Cherina Rav. And he grew up, he was a Yosef, his mother was Nifta, he was a couple of months. So he grew up by this Cherina Rav. And he told them, they lived in Turin, which had a lot of Breslov Hasidim, and he told them, don't eat by the other Breslov, except by Rabbi Ron Ber. Rabbi Ron Ber was the Rebbe Zainikel, and by him you could eat. So what happened when he was a younger man, a bocher, I think maybe, he was invited to Rabbi Ron Ber's meal. He was invited to eat there as a meal. Shrina Rav asks him afterwards, what did you see? He said, well, Rabbi Ron Ber sat down to eat. He took the spoon in his mouth. He ate something. He put the spoon down, and he was with tzoynus and kisufim to Hashem. After every spoonful, then he would take another spoonful, and then he would yearn for Hashem. And then he'd take another spoonful, and then another yearning for Hashem. The Rebbe brings that in Torah, Merachim Minhagim, as you have the Ha'oros HaRotzoin, when you eat. This Rebbe Ram Sternhardt said he saw by Rebbe Ram Beren. Moridik. But that was a Guf Kodosh. Rebbe Ram Beren was a Gvaldik Tzadik. Al Koponim, that's the way you have to eat. B'kedusha of Tahara, that way you makadesh the mozoin that comes in you. V'alkein, ayideshin is gashim b'chinas avida de'etz Yisrael de b'china hanal. When a person gets kicked out of Eretz Yisrael through the chokhmas of the simicha, the skav yadayim, and so on, azay ein yichoylin li yisrakim gufim zakim. Then you can't have a guf kodosh that's born guf kodosh. The person has to work on it himself. V'ein yichoylin lekabel neshama gedoyla, and you can't be mekabel a great neshama. Because of that, you can't have the neshama gedoyla, because you can't have the kedushas Eretz Yisrael. Nilkach soida iba meitano. So we lose out the soida iba, how to understand how the teva works. Kuloi b'hashgocha. Zeh she'omru l'chumreinu zal. V'oiso yodi el anviya mechoizim shov. B'soid ami lo yiyu, u'v'ksav Yisrael lo yikusevu, v'elad b'Yisrael lo yavoyu. What's the pshat? The Rebbe says, the Gemara says over there, V'oiso yodi el anviya mechoizim shov. B'soid ami lo yiyu, they'll never get to the soida iba. U'v'ksav Yisrael lo yikusevu z'smicha. Why not? Because the smicha is no good. Because they're not being masmich with seichel. But Admei Yisrael lo yavoyu, they won't get to Eretz Yisrael. They will never get to the Kedusha Yisrael in order to make the Gufim Zakim. Knal, Sav Yisrael lo yikusevu z'smicha. I know, they smicha shema smicha Rebbe Shem Rebbe. Eshe enem hagunim, because you give koyach to those who aren't, or gon ayidei machlish and ksav Yisrael. If you mashli to ksav, you machlish the chokhmah. The wisdom of Klal Yisrael, that is what goes away. This ksav, the koyach hasmit, that comes to the chokhmah. They won't get there, so why is that? They get chased away from Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. Last night in Jackson, there was a guy who was asking me a number of questions in Jackson, New Jersey. So I said to him, where do you come from? He says, I was born and raised in Brooklyn. I said, well, that's the place where there were a lot of Yidden, right? That was like a Bechinas Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. And now you end up here in Jackson, New Jersey. You know, what's here, right? I said, you see that? You were kicked out of Brooklyn. And the guy, Bekitzer, this is the goalist of Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael keep on being sent from one place to the next. You take a look at the history of Am Yisrael, where they went from one place to the next. They were in France, in Spain. They were in Spain. They went to France. They went to the Netherlands. They were kicked out of there. They went to Germany. They kicked out of Germany. They went to Poland. They went to the Ukraine. They keep on getting kicked around all over the world. Rachmana litzlan. Why is that? We're being sent away from Eretz Yisrael. Where we go, the Rebbe says in Siv Beis, that we can mekadosh the aviyah b'kedushas Eretz Yisrael. You can make a bechinas of Eretz Yisrael where you are, right? And if we don't do it right, we get kicked around, right? And this is what's happening now in America with the Yidden, the Rachmana litzlan. We have to daven hard that we're all safe. There b'soid ami lo yihiyu, ze soid iba, shai de ze nilkach meitono soid iba canal, v'chol ze ayidei hamoisrois canal. Everything is because we indulge a little bit Coke, a little bit, other sweet drinks, right? I need a slush, that's what they call Slurpee, right? I need I must have that steak, or I must have this, that. You're allowed to eat, and you can eat it all, right? But we have to know it's not indulgent. I'm eating something that I want to, through this, have koyach to serve Hashem, right? Siman Reish Lamed Aleph, I think it is, in Shulchan Aruch, called Ma'asav Yihu L'Shem Shemayim, right? You eat, you sleep, do whatever you want. You're a human being, you have to, right? You have to have the gashmi, but do it L'Shem Shemayim, right? Yodei Shemecha, bring Hashem into the equation, all right? Any questions? A little loud and clear.
The ksiva of purifying the air. It's not the chidushim. It's even just like writing the Torah that you've learned, writing summons, writing notes. It's applicable to
Ksav,
tzaddikim.
the Ksav, the Rebbe is talking here about Ksav, calls it a Ksav of Smicha, right? But the Metzias is the dibur of a person is also a bechinas Ksav. Torah Yud Zayin, the Rebbe says a person speaks, right? When he speaks, it's like it's nechkak ba'aver. It's written down. The burim that a person has also is bechinas Ksav. And we have to watch out what we say. Okay? We have to be careful what we say. Any questions?
Oh,
Oh, that's a question?
no questions? Floor is open.
You have questions on this or anything else?
My question is, when will Kiev airport open up for us? That's my question.
Hayoim,
To see this already.
Hayoim, in the Koilos Shmo. And then you don't need Kiev. You can have the Uman airport open up for that. In the very early years, when we traveled to Uman, before it became open, so I had to go to Russia as a tourist. Mela, I don't know if I was Zoicher, but I toured the city of Kiev. Tourists brought me to all the different places, right? So as far as I'm concerned, whatever Kiev is, right, it should be buried in the earth deep, deep, deep. Rabbi Yochanan Galant, you knew him? Okay. He was from the Oivdim in Uman, and he lived in Tashkent. By the war, he ran away to Tashkent, I was learning in Eretz Yisrael in '64, January '64. When he came, he was able to get out of Russia, and he came to Eretz Yisrael. And the KGB was so powerful. If anyone ever mentioned Russia or something like that, you would see him shake. Mama shake. He would like. It took him about a month, 6 weeks, till he got over that fear. I saw this, right? And then we asked him, well, what do you say about Russia now? He said, take all the Jews out and set fire to it from one end to the next. Right? That's what Ukraine, I personally, I've been in Uman over 200 times. And frankly, I can't stand any second that I'm on Ukrainian soil because of the rivers of Yiddish blood that swallowed up in the Ukraine. Rivers, right? That swallowed up in the earth of the Ukraine. So I have no use for Kiev. I only have use for Uman because the Rebbe is there. But whatever the case is, that's when will it open up? I have a different story in that. Right? The Rebbe said, Ich wünsch mich, ihr soll solche sein, zu sehen die Lichtigkeit von den Wegen, was der Vater sagt zu mir. I bless myself that I should see the illumination of the paths that you travel upon them to me. Right? So when Uman opened up, whatever happened, so they traveled Kiev to Uman, Odessa to Uman, whatever the case is, right? But now the Rebbe wants to see more light. So he sends us to Kishinev, to Yaz, to Poland, right? And we have a much greater area of light that the Rebbe is illuminating the world with. So I'm not so interested in it. I don't like it. Believe me, I don't like it. And I'm getting older, so it makes it harder to travel, right? And it doesn't matter. This is what it is. The Eibishter is running the world, not me, right? The Neshama G'doyle, the Soida Iba, right? You have to, Mashve, the Chama Ulavana. We have to learn to become close to the Tzadik, right? We're the Levana. We have to learn to come close to the Tzadik. You have to daven from today to be able to be by the Rebbe's Kibbutz Rosh Hashanah. You should have started months ago, but at least start from now. You be an in Rosh Hashanah. Start every day. You think it's easy? Not easy, right? Some people make it, oh, great, oh, I'm going to Uman, right? Some guy told me once, Ronnie Greenwald. You remember Ronnie Greenwald? Yeah. He was there one Rosh Hashanah. Right? I saw him there because I knew him from the Aguda in Borough Park. I was a bocher yet. Right? I said, Ronnie, what are you doing here? He said, this is the last place where you could find the Jewish happening. Comes to get in on me. We call it the Jewish Woodstock. Right? Anyone here know what Woodstock was? Uman is the Jewish Woodstock. It is. It is. You have people from all over the world coming there. Mamish all over the world. We have a guy from Melbourne, Australia. You heard of it? Right? He's deaf. Right? Deaf. Can't hear a word come out. He learns L'Kutei Moharan every day. Every day he learns L'Kutei Moharan. And he travels every year from Melbourne to Uman. He travels. Now, we have a guy who blows shofar for him. He blows 30 koilis, not 100, he blows 30 koilis for him. Right? He puts the shofar right next to his ear, and he blows, Bekoshi, the guy hears the koilis. Bekoshi. So imagine the guy sitting on the plane, this is your captain speaking, everybody fasten your seatbelts because we have turbulence and whatnot. He doesn't hear a word, right? He's traveling from Melbourne, Australia to Uman every year, right? So he's learning the Rebbe's Svarim over there. he's metahed the ear from Melbourne to, well, we got our friend Guillermo from Argentina, La Plata, Argentina. Every year he's an Uman since 1992 or 93. Since then he's been an Uman every year, right? He goes from South America, the Avir HaNachva Hazach, he makes it to Uman every year, right? The Rebbe is out there, right? You think it's easy? No, it's not. But there are more and more people coming, right? How is that? The Koyach Tzadik, the Neshama Gedolah, right, is trying to teach us the Derech Yosher, Loi Lahatois, Loi Yamin, Loi L'Smoil. To find Hashem whatever you do in life. That's the essence of this Torah. Rebbe says there's a Seichel HaKoilel, the end of the Torah, right? The Seichel, the Neshama, right? The Seichel HaKoilel. What you have to have is the Seichel HaProti, is Mekabel from the Seichel HaKoilel. So that whatever the Rebbe said, I'm trying to Mekabel, I'm trying to Bekayim. That's what we need. Okay? That way, we can get all the Ruchnius Dika Brochers, we can get all the Gashmius Dika Brochers. Be'ezah Hashem, everything will work out. So it doesn't matter, Kiev, Kishinev, right? I had a guy once from Oslo, Norway. He wrote me he wants to come to Uman. Problem is, he said, I'm going to try and do it. But the Rebbe says in Chaim Moran, I like very much those people who come to me by foot. How do I go from Oslo, Norway to Uman by foot? Right, that's what he asked me. I said, don't try it. But whatever. A guy could think in Oslo, Norway, that he wants to walk to Uman. Right? Imagine what goes on in people's minds. Right? You have to have an Hogus Yishoris. Right? You have to be practical too. Okay? All right? Tzvi, do your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a wonderful life. And all the people that I met a lot of weird things, but Baruch Hashem. My boys and I were about to put out of the Kuta Moran.
But he did one already. He did one.
Huh?
He already did one.
He took one already.
Yeah.
Tell him to take a second one. Toivim Mashnayim in Echad. Right? Toivim Mashnayim in
How many
Echad.
left?
Only 10 left. Only 10 left.
Huh?
Only 10 left.
Only 10 left.
Yeah.
Right? We're about to put out of the Kuta Moran pocket edition. You ever see pocket editions, Mishnayos, Tanakh, right? We're about to do that with our Kuta Moran with the Palish, right? In English, it's 15 volumes. We figured it out. We had the typesetter work on it. We can do it in 30 volumes. You know, small, that you can carry it around when you travel, right? It's easier to carry it from Kishinev to Uman than the big one, right? Anyway, B'kitzur, we want to try and put it out, right? We figured out that it costs us about $2,500 per volume. 30 volumes, we need 30 people to come up with $2,500, and we can go ahead and print. We already have 20. There's only 10 volumes left. Let's see the guys pick it up. 2,500. You can do it in payments, right? I suggest you do it in one payment. It's easier for you. You don't have to think about it. But if you can't, you can do it in 10 payments, 10 months. And you are giving out Likutei Moran all over the world. How's that? You have a chelik, and anybody else in the world who learns Likutei Moran, it's on your credit. How's that? Right? $2,500 after life insurance. Huh? I don't hear any takers.
It's a very good question.
Huh?
It's a very good question.
After.
Huh?
What did the rabbi mean by after life insurance?
After a person finishes 120 years,
After life.
after life insurance. Life insurance I can't help you with. But after life insurance I can help you with. Right? Okay? Say it, Makubal. Shalom Aleichem, I get you, how are you? That's good, Baruch Hashem. Huh? Yeah. So I'm on the list if you want to see that.
Marif, anybody? Marif? No? See them all, go ahead. There's a fucking knock. Huh? There's another minute.
How you doing? Good to see you. Shkoyach, thank you.
You could learn out.
You could and you should. Everything that you learn, you should be able to take out something that will connect you with Hashem.
Right, but also you could also take from other Torahs to explain that Torah.
Other Torahs, yeah. Take a Mishnah Berurah, take a Rosh, take a Rambam.
The Torah from Shlomo Goldman said every sefer is a pirush on the Kutam Rambam.
Yeah. Yeah. So do we have any takers? On my side, do we have any takers? I guess not. Okay.
Takers you have, you givers. We're all takers.
Right, someone went up one time, made an appeal. He said there was 50% successful. Nadim wanted to take, and
Yosef Yosef he came home late from shul, Shabbos Hagodah. The wife asked him, what happened today? He says, I had to make more Shlita. He said, but were you successful? He said, halfway. The Aniyim are willing to accept.
I have a nice drum that says Vahida Yom Hashmini. Yom Hashmini is virtually the base of the Rebbe's birthday.
Yeah.
Hashmini is Hey, the 5 Tzadikim. Shmini is the Rosh Hashanah of the 5 Tzadikim. Shimon, Moshe, Yisrael, Nachman, and Yitzchak.
Israel. Very nice. Very nice.
All right, Shkaya.
Welcome to you.